But let's continue this conversation about kind of this. Who do we need to be patient about, and are we actually panicking? And so there were a number of poor performances over the weekend. And Harrison, I'll let you get us going on here. We'll start with I mentioned Washington. All right, Antonio Gibson, 3 carries, 9 yards, 1 reception. Both of us were high on him coming into the year. Patience or panic with him?
I'm not panicked about his usage and what he did with the 3 carries and the 1 reception, because I think that was kind of going with the game plan. He's going to be involved in a lot of games where they are losing because they have to pass. He's the passing down back. If they're up and they're trying to milk the clock, then it's going to be Brian Robinson. But what is really concerning to me was the fumble that he had in the first game, because this has been an issue for him his entire career and was primarily the reason why he's no longer the starter. And they drafted Brian Robinson 2 years ago to bring him in and be that guy who they can count on. I mean, if he is going to fumble in week 1, week 2, I don't see Eric Bieniemy having a pretty long leash for Antonio Gibson. I mean, he could be off the field really soon, and we could even see Chris Rodriguez, the rookie they have this year, come in and take some of those touches. So if the season keeps going on, he goes 2 or 3 weeks and doesn't fumble again and gets the trust of the offense back, I think he'll be perfectly fine. But it is really hard being a, fumbling prone guy to then fumble in your first game with a new offensive staff and be able to go to them and be like, hey, I promise I'm not going to fumble again. Give me more workload, because he hasn't been able to do it in the past.
Yeah, I'm gonna remain patient. I'm not gonna draw any conclusions yet. That was an ugly game with Arizona. And let's go a couple teams, and there are multiple players underneath these teams, starting with the Giants. And Saquon Barkley didn't do much. Daniel Jones struggled mightily. My boy Darren Waller, he played, so that was good, but wasn't very involved. It's about 6 fantasy points. Didn't really play in the second half because they were losing so badly. And then you have the Steelers, who really struggled against San Francisco. So which of those, kind of 2 teams and the players on those teams that you're maybe most concerned about, or who you're willing to be patient with?
Yeah, the Giants I'm concerned about just because I was never really on the Giants hype train going into the season. I loved Darren Waller, but I didn't want any of the other receivers. I was out on Saquon Barkley, out on Daniel Jones. So this wasn't really too surprising for me, because I thought they were a pretty overrated offense going into the season anyways. All they really had going for them was Darren Waller. But I think the really interesting thing from these 2 teams is the Steelers and the overall offensive philosophy that they had there. This was a team that for the last couple of years leaned heavy on the run to establish that, move the chains, and then worked off the pass from that. And now they got down early, but we saw only 3 rush attempts for Najee Harris in the first half, which is part of that because they were losing the 49ers? Is part of it because that's what they actually want to do? I don't know, but there were a lot of drives that started out where it was pass on first down, incompletion, pass on second down, incompletion. Now they're in 3rd and long and they aren't able to convert. I don't think Kenny Pickett is good enough at this point in his career to be someone that is going to pick apart a defense passing 40 times a game. And if that's what they want to do, then I think I have a little bit of concern for this team, because I think they need to gain some momentum first running the ball. I mean, we've seen this in the past with Steelers teams. During the end of his career, Ben Roethlisberger was leading the league in pass attempts. So is that actually how they want to play and how Mike Tomlin wants to play? And they just haven't been able to do it the last couple of years because they had Mitch Trubisky and rookie Kenny Pickett? Or are they going to go back to the run game for the next few weeks to come? And it was just because they were playing the 49ers and we know how great their defense is. I don't know, but I think it'll be really interesting to see what they do in week 2 from a play calling philosophy.
So Deontay Johnson is banged up. It looks like he's going to miss a few weeks. So that's very concerning. I do have him in one league, but I get excited about George Pickens. So I think he'll be good over the coming weeks. And even Allen Robinson got involved a little bit. I'm not sure I'm running to the waiver wire to get Allen Robinson. Probably not the value that I don't see the upside there. But I'm going to be patient with the Steelers because they played against the 49ers. A weird game that I watched a good bit of was the Jaguars and the Colts. And I was very impressed with Richardson, like I said. And Michael Pittman, wow, he had a huge game. He was awesome. The run game was horrendous overall with those running backs. So get Zach Moss. He's injured, but whenever he comes back, at least he'll get a shot to be the running back there, of course, before whatever we don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. And then we had somebody ask on YouTube, do you go pick up Pittman? If he's on the waiver wire, absolutely you get Pittman. So I was wrong about Richardson and I was wrong about Pittman. I don't have any Colts players. I think I have Zach Moss. But I would not with Jack. The other side of that game was Jacksonville, and I was starting to panic with how poorly they were playing. They finally got it together. I think they'll be fine. So no panic in Jacksonville. However, Christian Kirk, we wondered about him. So Calvin Ridley lit it up. Awesome game. Day one, boom. Okay, he's the real deal. He's back. Any of those questions were answered. Zay Jones, really good. I avoided him this year. So Christian Kirk was the forgotten man in week one. Will that trend continue? Harrison, are you panicking with Christian Kirk, who ended up going fairly high in drafts?
I'm not panicking right now. I think, again, this was a really weird game. I was watching this game as well. And you were always, going to get the feeling that, okay, here we go. The Jags are going to drive down the field and score a touchdown. And then they never really did. It was kind of a lot of inconsistency from them with big plays and then not being able to sustain drives. And I think Christian Kirk just got lost in all of that. I agree with you. We saw Zay Jones, Calvin Ridley play extremely well. I think he is definitely going to be a more inconsistent player this year, but he's going to have his weeks. If it gets to week 3 and we still haven't seen a game where he has more than 2 or 3 receptions, then I would be concerned. But I also would not be surprised at all if he has, 5 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown next week. And everyone who dropped Christian Kirk or traded away him after the first week of the season is like, oh my gosh, I should have kept him. I knew he was going to be good. Why did I panic after week 1?
Yeah, that's a good buy low candidate. I think so. All right. So a lot of players we can kind of go through and, hey, patience or panic. I lean toward patience early in the season. Now, some of the injuries, obviously there's some panic there. But I don't think, other than the Giants, I think the Giants are the only team where it's a full-on panic. I think the Bears will make some adjustments. They're still young. We got to be patient with them. Kansas City will be fine. A number of these teams will be okay. Now, the Panthers, that's my team. It could be a long season. There's some panic there, but I don't think there's anybody other than Miles Sanders who did okay. You drafted him fairly high if you went in on Miles Sanders. So there's a touch of panic there because Chuba Hubbard actually played a lot. And so there's a little bit of a committee there, but that could be okay. Even though they might be down in games and not run as much.